They use code words in terms of when you say Dalit, D-A-L-I-T is the spelling, they would just change A to the @ sign and their platform cannot detect it.
Welcome to the Research for Good podcast. My name is Professor David Ellis, and today I'm joined by Dr Pardeep Attri, who's an Assistant Professor of Strategy and Organisation. So your research looks at caste. Many people will have heard of the term, but some people might never have heard of it. Can you just say when you say caste, what does that mean?
Yeah, caste. Indian society is divided into castes. Like, no matter who you are, you have a caste. You cannot be without a caste if you are an Indian. Mm-hmm. So once you are born, you get that caste from your parents. And Indian society broadly, if we see, it is divided into 6 groups. It scriptural, historically or religiously, there are 4 groups which mainly when we talk about caste. There are 2 groups which are kind of outside the caste group, but they are kind of in a way part of it. First is the religious teachers, first group. Second group is on Brahmin Kshatriya. Kshatriya is a warrior class. And third is the traders, business groups and group people. Fourth is the labor class. I'm just using the English terms.
Sure, yeah.
So, and these are the 4 when we talk about the caste system. But there are 2 other groups. One is Dalits. Formerly, they were known as untouchables because their touch was even considered impure. They were not allowed in the villages. Inside the villages, they used to have their homes outside the village. Mm-hmm. They used to work with dead animals, carrying the dead animal from the villages and take them outside the village and skin them and use their skin for leather products and stuff like that. And the 6th group is Adivasi, we call it, let's say tribal groups. They were not very much typically a part of this system because they used to live in remote areas, hills and forests, and they were not very much influenced by this whole caste system, which was more in cities and villages. So that's where my research is. My research is on these Dalits. Their existence was very much necessary to kind of to survive in this whole system in a way, because you had to carry this dead animal, otherwise you might get diseases or stuff like that. You had to do dirty work, cleaning the streets. Otherwise these things go out of control. So they were kind of a part of the whole system, but they were kept outside the system. They were not allowed into temples. They were not allowed into the education, and these things changed about 75 years ago, probably. 75 years ago. They started getting some opportunity to go into the schools. Even temple entry very recently started for them. There are still challenges. These continue in the present days. For instance, in schools and university, there are many times separate canteens for different caste groups, separate cups for the different caste groups. Food cooked by a Dalit chef is not accepted by many of the students many times. When we are talking about class, most of the research as well, when we talk in Indian context, focus on class. They don't want to touch caste because it's a controversial issue in a way that Indian government wants to keep it inside. It's an internal issue. They restrict it that it should not be raised at international levels, international stage. They stopped activists and many organizations to raise this issue at UN level. They have forced them to step back. This research is more about caste on social media. That in general, this paper is focused on how caste restrict Dalits from forming their narratives on social media. There's structural issues that restrict them from building their own histories on using the social tools and social media tools.
So I guess in the context of your research, that makes a lot of sense, because if there's limits to where that's been discussed, then the internet and social media potentially is a way that people can discuss that.
Yeah. So that is kind of assumed in democratic narratives that are pushed by the social media as well, platforms, that we are democratizing these platforms and these spaces, but that's not what we find actually. That's not what we find. There are structural kind of invisibility that goes into it, where algorithm bias, the data on which these platforms have been trained on, has been biased historically. So their platform cannot detect caste abuse that goes on.
I see, okay.
That's a big issue there. Another issue is on kind of coded word when you are using abuse. Most of these upper caste who are abusing the lower caste individual on these platforms, they use code words in terms of when you say Dalit, D-A-L-I-T is the spelling, they would just change A to the @ sign and their platform cannot detect it.
Okay.
So there are Hinglish, we call it, like Hindi and English mixture. These kind of tricks are used by the users to evade the
Moderation.
Yeah. And when we mention moderation, there's another point comes to my mind. Most of the people who are moderating are also coming from the dominant castes, because they historically and at present when we data we see these companies mostly hire the dominant caste individuals. So our participants tell us that they do not have this caste awareness in a way that can find and restrict or the moderate effectively.
Presumably, despite some of the challenges that people face online in terms of abuse, when you were speaking to people, that didn't stop them engaging online, or how does that kind of...
It is interesting in a way that many of the Dalits have kind of moved away from these platforms in recent years, because the abuse has been so pervasive in a way that they have moved away because they believe that that is not good for them in terms of mental health, in terms of their own well-being, and in terms of surveillance as well. Like, there have been many cases where they have been targeted by police in a way that why you are posting these kind of comments, and there have been inquiries against them. So they step back from posting, and the threat is real as well. Like in terms of there have been cases as well reported in news that once one lower caste person is posting some anti-caste content, upper caste people got so angry that person traveled 300 kilometers to kill that person who was posting that content. So there have been these cases where the threat is real, so that make them really scared many times, and they withdraw the participation.
And so when they withdraw, they go into other places?
Many times our participants, they are withdrawing completely from the platforms and going kind of restrictive, which is, for instance, WhatsApp is very much one-to-one kind of platform where you can talk, and private groups they form, or they just try to form groups among themselves where the Dalits are only the participant in those groups. So these kind of things they do. They definitely they also believe that they have reduced their social media usage.
Yeah. So I was wondering whether they'd maybe moved on to alternative online spaces, but by the sounds of it, what they've kind of done is, I suppose you could argue WhatsApp is an alternative space, but it's a more sort of closed.
Yeah.
It's a challenge, isn't it? Because it's almost like the opportunity for people to discuss things like caste that maybe can't be discussed elsewhere, and online platforms provide a space for that. But it sounds like once things become more visible, then people are then more exposed to even more abuse.
Yeah.
The question I've got is there a way to achieve recognition without that exposure?
I mean, in reality, I'm not very hopeful. I'm maybe pessimistic in a way, but there are certain things probably organizations can do, this platform can do. For instance, training their platform on the caste-sensitive data, training their moderators on caste awareness things, bringing representation of these marginalized group in their teams. So there are few things they definitely can do, but given the caste is everywhere, like everywhere, you can't escape it one place to another. So the hope is little, but that does not mean I believe like they still need to do some stuff around handling the abuse. It is their responsibility. It's their platform, and when you are claiming that you are democratizing, but these things are going on, that's not the case. That's not the case then.
we've done work on this, the way that people try and build their history or stories on social media. From a research perspective, how did you go about doing that? Did you just look at what was online, or was it?
No, we did. We did systematic. We interviewed. We have data quite a lot on interviews and focus groups. Mm-hmm. We collected these tweets and Facebook posts, which were submitted by the participants, which they felt they are troubling. We did participant observation. So we had a lot of data on.
So data from the platform itself, but also data from the people behind the screen.
Yes, yes.
So historically in research, that's often quite difficult to do because people tend to just look at one or the other, right? But you've actually got both. These are real people that you've managed to interview.
Yeah. So that's where we also wanted to have a kind of comprehensive kind of understanding what's going on behind the scenes and on the screen.
When you were interviewing people, obviously, presumably they were, if it was me, I'd be pretty disappointed that I had to withdraw from these platforms. What were they hopeful that things would change, or did they feel that the exposure is worth it? Or I just wonder what's their hopes for the futures in terms of your, even in terms of your own research. Like, what did they think about the work and
I mean, this question, similar question, comes definitely when I am talking to my participant with respect to my research, that what impact would it have? They want to see that, okay, when I'm talking to you, would it change anything? To be honest, I do not have any answer for them, because I've been in this field for long now, reading and writing, and there have been changes, but pace is very slow, given that we are in this 21st century and given that things are moving fast and change has been very slow with respect to that. And participants, generally, they were also not very hopeful in a way that when many of them report these abuse on the platform, one of the research is mentioning even 95% of that reports remain like that, abuse stay there. So from the data as well, from the participants, what they have told me, its hope is very little in a way that things will change. Things might get worse in a way because of AI, and given that they have been trained on these biased data, and pace at which it is shared is very fast now, and the correction that need to be happening is very slow.
The other question I was also thinking as well is that when I asked earlier about alternative spaces, and we mentioned people might just go to closed off WhatsApp groups, there's the potential for people to develop new social media platforms potentially, or new spaces on the internet. I don't know if that's something that in the future could happen.
You have to think of, when we're talking about Dalit, they do not have resources at all, in a way. No resources at all. So if 95 or 90% of these individuals are surviving day-to-day life, 10% are probably living okay. So there is this kind of ambition that they can build this kind of platform is kind of unthinkable in a way.
I guess I was also thinking about it from a sort of research perspective, or from a sort of, where could other resources come from in the future to support that potentially?
So that's a possibility, definitely. When I'm saying this, many challenges, they have been kind of trying at their level. So for instance, start their own websites. Which is kind of maybe
which is a beginning.
30 pound, you can set up a website, and it's just something like digital kind of archives, and bring individual and post your own views, which are not kind of moderated by others, and you have influence over what kind of content you are putting on your own website. So there have been these efforts definitely going on. But again, their reach is very limited, and it remained among the Dalit community only.
I was struck by, I think one of the participants did challenge directly what difference will any of this make. I suppose being more optimistic, many people are not aware in the rest of the world about things like caste. They won't be aware of some of these issues. So I suppose part of the impact here is raising awareness. You still have to understand an issue before you can do something about it. There's not as broad an understanding because these people haven't been asked.
There is a hope in that sense. I also believe that if change has to come, most of these issues and change will come from outside because of maybe pressure from different government from outside, or different big organizations from outside. They might have more influence than Indian-owned government or on organization in Indian context. So that is a good thing in a way, that But otherwise, if we see like most of the Indian living in abroad as well, they have caste. We bring our caste baggage with us. We don't leave that behind. Here as well, if you see in UK, most of the marriages happen within the same caste. Most of the people who go to different temples and different gurdwara, they go based on their own caste affiliated religious places. So it's not that they have left behind caste when they have moved here. When we see like till 1975, lower caste individuals were not even given the passports because they were not considered good representative of the country.
Yeah.
So most of the people who moved abroad before that were the upper caste.
Yeah.
So they have established themselves here in the UK, in the US. So voice that goes in these foreign countries is from dominant castes.
Yeah.
Even one data in US context shows that lower castes are barely like 5% of US's Indian population.
Yeah.
While we see in Indian context their population is almost 75%.
The research of yourself and others, in terms of the impact, a lot of it is about just drawing attention to this issue. And I guess that's how you then develop sort of group intelligence around actually this isn't, we should talk about this and we should make this, people need to be aware of it, because then that naturally puts pressure on governments to accept that this is a real thing, right? Which is true of any hidden inequalities. If it's not hidden anymore, then it gets a bit more awkward to just go, we're not going to do anything about it. So what would your hopes be for the future?
I would love it to be talked openly. Like it should not be considered like stigma in a way, or fear comes to your mind when you have to talk about the caste. People need to acknowledge their privilege in a way that, okay, they are privileged. I believe personally that more they can do is to make their own caste aware about their privilege and what they are doing to the lower caste individual. That is much more important, I believe, because the upper caste individual will listen to upper caste individual better rather than they will listen to the lower caste individual. So that's where they need to do is that they acknowledge their own privilege and make the other among their own community to be aware that what they have done in past, what they are doing right now, suppression that is going on.
You've been listening to the Research for Good podcast. To find out more about research in the School of Management, you can visit our website or click the links in the episode description.